Hey guys, thank you so much for joining me today. We are making this fun tree farm shaker card. It has some beautiful little bits of the Dazzling Diamonds Glimmer Paper in there as the snow, and we have the fence from the Halloween Scenes Edgelits Dies, as well as the trees from Santa's Sleigh Framelits Dies, and I just thought this was so cute. I framed it with a piece of crumb cake cardstock, and on the inside I have put a little tree and then just a white background to write your sentiment on. So let's get started making this fantastic card. So there's actually no stamping. It is so different to make a card without stamping a single thing. I didn't even stamp a sentiment. I am using the Halloween Scenes and the Santa's Sleigh dies. So from Santa's Sleigh, we're going to need a few. We're going to use the tree. We're going to use the wreath, so we need the wreath and the little middle cutout, and we're going to use the large bow. And from the Halloween Scenes dies, we're going to use that glorious fence. That fence is so much fun. I can't get enough of it. Before we cut out our shapes, we want to cut our frame for the front of our card. This is just a scrap piece of crumb cake cardstock that I have. So you want to cut this the same size as the card front, but just a slight hair smaller. So I'm actually going to cut it at a 1/16 of an inch smaller than 4 1/4, and a 1/16 of an inch smaller than 5 1/2. And to get our frame is about 3/8 of an inch. So what we're going to do is line the edge up here with the 3/8 of an inch mark on the right-hand side of the trimmer. Now I want to make sure that I only cut 3/8 of an inch in from the top. So with my trimmer, I don't have it down yet. I have my finger blocking it. I'm going to move this to the 3/8 inch mark, which is right there. So we're going to go to 3/8 of an inch. I'm going to press it down, and then I'm going to run it all the way until I have 3/8 of an inch from the bottom. And I'm going to do that all the way around. So we're going to line this up at 3/8. Okay, and then you should have a frame as well as the inner piece. We're going to use the inner piece to cut out our fence. All right, so we're going to cut out our fence out of cardstock, and we're going to cut our trees and our wreath out of some cucumber crush. So let's get our tree and wreath going. So I'm just going to put my tree on and my wreath. And I also have a scrap of red glimmer paper to cut out my bow. All right, so there's tree number 1. We want 6 trees. The piece of paper I started with was 3 inches by 11 inches, and it was just a scrap that I had. And I cannot get all 6 large trees out of this one piece, but that's okay. I don't need the whole tree. I'm just going to do 3 more trees that are staggering heights like this. Okay, now it's time to do our fence. So I'm just going to put my fence down right like this, and then I'm just going to chop the edges off. Make sure that you have some space between the bottom of your paper and the bottom of your framelit, because we want to see some of that crumb cake coming through. Right now, from some Whisper White, we're going to cut 2 pieces. One measure 5 1/2 by 4 1/4. That's going to go on the inside of our card, and we will be trimming this down with scissors once we glue it inside. And I have another piece that measures 5 1/4 by 4. This is going to be what we're going to build our scene on. I have a scrap of Whisper White here, and if you can see, I have some score lines on here. This is just a scrap that I tried to do a project with, and it didn't quite work out how I'd like. I know we've all been there. So I'm just going to use this as my snowbanks, and what I'm going to do, I'm not concerned with the lines because we're really not going to see those. I'm going to start by tearing it. And you can see once I start tearing it, you can see the rough edge on top here. That's the part that I want. If I flip it over, you can see there's a rough edge here too. There we go. Now we have a strip that's torn like this. And now I'm going to just tear this apart into 3 pieces. Just like that. All right, let's start building our scene. We have all the pieces that we need. Now, an optional thing that you can do if you'd like to give the trees a little more dimension, I have a wild wasabi marker here. You could also use Cucumber Crush or any contrasting green if you'd like. And what I like to do on the trees is just give the edges a little bit more dimension by just running the side of the marker down over one side of the trees. It kind of gives a shadowed effect. So I think that that can really add a little bit of dimension to your project if you so choose. Okay, so we're going to set one of our trees aside to put on the inside of our card. And I have one tree that I'm going to keep at full height. And then I have another tree that I'm just going to cut the bottom off of. So we have a couple of different heights of trees, and that's what I want to add some foreground and background dimension to our project. Using some fast fuse to glue down my snowbanks and my bridge, or my little fence. So I'm going to take the fast fuse, and at the very bottom of the fence piece, I'm just going to run a small strip down that. Now I don't want to glue the whole thing because I want to be able to tuck things behind here. So let's put our fence off to the right hand side, and I'm going up about 3/4 of an inch or so. So I have my fence now. I want to do my first snowbank, and I want to put that down at the bottom of my card. But before I glue that down, I'm going to take some Wink of Stella and just brighten up the outside tears of my snow. Okay, so I'm going to take that fast fuse and just run a strip on the bottom of that snowbank, and I'm going to put that towards the bottom. It does not have to go all the way down, and it doesn't have to be perfect. This is just a fun and quick scene that we are creating from some paper scraps. So I'm going to grab my full tree, and I'm using liquid glue for this because it will give me the wiggle room that I need in case I need to adjust any movement. So the first tree, I'm going to tuck under that snowbank, and I want it to kind of cover the edge of that fence slightly so that the fence goes behind the tree and just kind of disappears. Okay, now let's get some more snowbanks in there. I'm going to put the second longest snowbank, and again, it doesn't matter how many or how wide or long. This is not perfect. We're just simply creating a fun scene. So I'm going to put this behind my fence, and I'm going to put that right about here. And if it goes off the edge, I am okay with that. We're going to trim that off. So I'm going to put my last snowbank, and again, keep the adhesive all the way on the bottom portion. And I'm going to put that right here up towards the top. And again, it's okay if you can see the edge, you can just cover that up with your trees. So I'm going to grab this tree and I'm just going to kind of place it, see where I want the rest of my trees to go. And let's do a short one right there. And the last one, if we want it in front, we could put it here, or we can put it all the way in front down here. Let's see, I think I want it right here. Let's move him over slightly. There we go. Once you have the placement for your trees and you like how everything looks, go ahead and glue it down. All right, now with some mini glue dots, I'm going to take my red glimmer bow and I'm going to pick up a glue dot and put that onto my wreath. And again, if you wanted to add some dimension to the wreath, just take your marker and go along the inside. And you see I made a boo-boo there? Well, let's just fix that up by making some intentional wreath marks. Just little hatches all the way around there. There, kind of looks a little bit more like a wreath now. Okay, and then I'm going to put another glue dot on the bottom of the wreath. And then I'm going to lasso it around one of the fence posts, kind of bring it down at an angle. So it's just kind of flung on the post. All right, let's trim up this edge. So I'm just going to flip it over and trim that off slightly. So the other item that we need is a piece of window sheet, and I have a piece right here. I'm going to cut this apart. Now I want it to be slightly larger than this scene, and again, this piece measures 4 by 5 1/4. So I'm going to cut it just 1/8 of an inch larger than that. So 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. All right, I have a Cucumber Crush card base here. This is a standard card base that's cut 5 1/2 by 8 1/2 and scored in the middle at 4 1/4. So I'm just going to take my bone folder and fold that in half. Now, sometimes if you have used your trimmer quite a bit, you have a rough edge here. All you need to do is take your bone folder and run that along that rough edge, and it will help to smooth it out and clean it up. So on my original card, I opted to draw in the lines to kind of make it look like a frame, more like a frame. I'm going to not do that on this piece, and I'm just going to leave it as it is. So we want to glue our window sheet onto our frame. So I'm just going to take some fast fuse, and I'm going to run that down my frame. Now it should just fit without going over any of the edges. But if you do get some adhesive on the edge, that's okay. Just take your fingers and kind of push it back onto itself, onto the sticky side. And then once you have that adhesive, go ahead and place your window sheet over the top. Now remember, this window sheet is just slightly smaller than our piece. It's very, very close match, and it fits almost perfectly. All right, we're going to put our scene down onto our card base. So I'm just going to use some more fast fuse to adhere that down. And we have our foam adhesive strips. I'm going to take a strip of that. And on the wrong side of my frame, this is the side that I adhered the window sheet to. I'm going to take those strips and I'm just going to run them right in the middle of that frame. I'm going to cut it off at the end and then connect it. Make sure they butt right up against each other. And then a little trick to help keep your paper from sticking too much to your sheet, take your embossing buddy and just pounce it a few times over that and just get right up in there against that foam strip. And then take a tissue and just kind of clean up your window. And here I have some pieces of Dazzling Diamonds Glimmer Paper. This is the extra bits that have come from the Christmas Pines Thinlits dies. These are from the pine cones. When you cut out the detailed pine cone, that is what you have left. So I had cut out several of this detailed pine cone from the die set, and all of the little inside bits are what I have left over for my snow. All right, so I'm just going to take those little bits, and I'm just going to pour them right into the center of my card. All right, we have some run away, but that is okay. Just make sure that you get them kind of all towards the center. Okay, now we are ready to put our frame on. Let's take the backing off of those adhesive strips. Right, and then just line it up and stick it down. And there is our shaker card. Look how fun that is. Our cute little tree farm. We're almost done. Let's glue our piece of white cardstock to the inside of our card so we can write our sentiment. I'm just using adhesive, the liquid adhesive, so that I have some wiggle room. I can move it around. Now again, this is cut pretty much the same size as the card front would be. So that is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And if you have any hangover on the other side, you can trim that off. This one seems to be just about perfect. And make sure you don't put it too much onto your crease in the middle, otherwise your card won't close properly. I'm going to glue in a tree. And there it is. Our fun Christmas tree farm shaker card is complete. I hope you guys enjoyed my Christmas tree farm shaker card. If you did, please remember to give the video a thumbs up. Leave me a comment, let me know what you thought, and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already to be notified when I upload new videos. Mondays, I have creative quickies. Wednesdays, I have Melissa's Creations live, and Fridays are my tutorial days, as well as some bits and bobs in between of some fun stuff that I am working on. Thank you guys so much for visiting. Head over to my website, melissascreations.com, to find out more information about all of the services that I offer. Thanks for joining me, guys. Have a good day.